Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for being here. This afternoon, we're pleased to welcome Dr. Linda Baum. Dr. Baum is Professor of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine. She's Vice Chair for Academic Affairs in the Department of Pathology. And in addition to her clinical and academic activities, is a very accomplished research scientist. I don't know if she'll speak about that today, and it's probably a subject for a different day, but that should be noted. So a very accomplished and successful academician herself, and we'll be speaking about mentoring this afternoon, mentoring up. Dr. Baum, thank you.
Okay. All right, hi. So we're a small group. If you want to move up, you can move up. If not, I speak very loudly and I will project. Is the mic even on? No. Is it on? In there, okay, all right. So we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk about, first we're going to talk about mentors, and about how you look for a mentor and what kind of mentors there are, and even if you get assigned a mentor, maybe what else you should be doing other than your official mentor. And then we're going to talk about a concept called mentoring up, which is what the junior person could put into the relationship to get something get more out of the relationship. And there's an article that will be referred to in here that Cindy has, and she can email to you, called Making the Most of Mentors, a Guide for Mentees. So if you're interested, please just ask Cindy to send it to you, or email me, and I'm happy to send it to you. Okay. And where's the pointer thing? And we were chatting. Hi. Oh, okay, thank you.
Change the slides and point.
Thank you, okay. All right. So the first part is about the mentor. So you are all at UCLA School of Medicine, so you all have to have a mentor. Who here knows the name of their mentor? Okay, that's not bad. We're like 50%. Okay, that's not bad. All right. I always ask the first year med students, like, who here got a TB test before you started med school? And about half of them go. So, okay, hi, come on in. So there's actually a field of research on mentoring. We heard a speaker from UC Santa Cruz yesterday on that, up at the faculty center. But there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that says there's a correlation between having a mentor and success in a career. And this is one article that talks about that and says mentors are perceived by the mentees as important in career advancement and satisfaction. And a mentor can be very helpful in not just choosing an academic career, but driving the direction of your academic career, and they can really help with productivity and success. And again, there isn't a lot of quantitative data on this, but there's a perception that this is true. So this was an article where they asked OBGYN fellows, what was the most important thing in being successful and getting your fellowship awards? And a lot of people rank the mentor as one of the most important things for success. So, the quality of advice can vary from the basic to the very sophisticated. And I think it's really important that you walk into the relationship knowing what you want to get out of the relationship. Is it a basic thing you need to know, or are there more sophisticated things you need to know? Okay. So at UCLA, there's actually a requirement that every junior faculty be assigned a mentor in their department, okay? And that you meet with the mentor twice a year. So if you don't know who your mentor is, you might want to talk to your division chief or your chair, and you might want to get in contact with them. And I would strongly suggest that if the department doesn't have a documentation system, that you document this, okay? It's very, very important that you document, yes, so if something happens and you go, well, nobody told me, but I went to my mentoring appointment twice a year and that was never described to me, that would be a good thing for you to know. Conversely, if it was told to you and you didn't do it, that would be a good thing to document too. So it is your responsibility when has anyone done a merit review yet? Okay, let's start over. Who's in their first year at UCLA? Oh, okay. Who's in their second year at UCLA? Okay.
That's the whole idea of the lecture series.
Yeah, okay. You're going to undergo a merit review. When you put together your paperwork for your merit review, you should include this documentation of meeting with your mentor, okay? So, what to look for in a mentor, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this. Mentors shouldn't necessarily be role models. Some of the best mentors you might have nothing to do with your particular area, your particular interest, okay? Some people are lifelong mentors, and some people are mentors for a very specific reason, for a very specific period in time. And lots of people have more than one mentor. So your department has to assign you a mentor. That person might be a really good fit for you. That person might be a pretty good fit for you. That person might be a good fit in some areas. but you should be always on the lookout for other relationships you can develop for advice consultation, because it's rare that one person is going to be everything to you. So I'm going to talk about different kinds of mentors. There are professional skills mentors, there are academic mentors, and there are life-work balance mentors. They could be 3 different people, and only one of them might be the person who's assigned by your department. Okay. A good mentor wants to mentor. So some people do it because the chair says, oh, you have to mentor this junior faculty person. So, if that's what you got, you make the best of it, but then you go look maybe for some additional people. So, but you would really like, if you're going out to look for someone, you'd like to find someone who's actually genuinely wants to do it. There's a real mutual benefit from it. You learn from junior people if you're a senior person. It's interesting. It's rewarding. So you want someone who actually gets something out of the relationship. The mentors and you should have very formal meetings on a scheduled basis. But a good mentor should be available, not all the time, but some of the time for informal meetings too. Oh my gosh, I just realized this RFA came out for a grant, and I'd really love if I could talk to you this week because it's due in 6 weeks. That kind of thing. A really good mentor should think about you and not want to clone themselves. They should think about your independence, your self-sufficiency. I would be wary of people who start every sentence with the word I. That's never a good sign. Okay. They should also consider the human and personal needs of the mentee. Now again, when we go back to those 3 types of mentors, this might not be the person that you talk about if you're having trouble with the kids or the significant other or anything else. That might be a different person. But they should at least understand that you have professional needs and you're trying to achieve a balance with your life as well. Okay. And they should be honest enough to provide meaningful feedback. So someone that tells you, hey, you're doing great, you're doing great, you're doing great, and the grant's not getting funded and the papers aren't getting accepted, isn't really doing you a favor. So you have to be willing to hear constructive criticism. Okay, and the other thing is they do is they hold the mentee accountable. So again, someone who's always telling you that it's okay, oh, you missed the meeting, it's okay, it isn't okay. So if someone is telling you nothing but positives, I might, think about that. So a mentor should be a good listener, concerned about your welfare. Trustworthy sounds basic, but is really important. Do you feel comfortable with this person? Because there should clearly be stated that it's a closed door session. Nothing's recorded. Whatever happens between the 2 of you is between the 2 of you. Okay, and we're going to talk about then who you choose as a mentor. Okay. And if you don't have a good feeling of trust with someone, and if it's your department mentor, then set up some specific, concrete, quantitative things you can talk about with that person, and maybe find someone else to talk about other things. Okay, because you have to feel comfortable letting your hair down a little. You have to feel comfortable talking about, I'm having a really hard time with X, Y, Z. And if this isn't someone you can trust to hear that, that's not a good thing. Helps if they're good at problem solving, that they respond to individual circumstances. It's nice if they're considered excellent in their area. It doesn't mean it's your area, but if they've achieved excellence in their area, that says that they've understood how the system works. Because a lot of this is just learning how the system works. Nobody is born knowing how to make associate professor. It's a set of learned skills. Okay, so you want someone who's done it and has been successful, and then can also think outside their own box. Because if they say, well, I'll say from my department, I'm a very successful blah blah pathologist. Do you want to be a blah blah pathologist? Or if you don't want to be, a hematopathologist, then what are you talking to me for? That's not a good mentor. But someone said, oh, I did some of these things, but in your field, let's talk about what you can do. Okay. And you can tell who's respected by people. That's very important. So even we were talking, you were saying you had a mentor back when you were very young. I have 3 or 4 faculty who are actually senior to me, who I go to talk to on a regular basis. And one of them is about scientific things, and one of them is about negotiating the waters and departmental issues, and one of them is about more like research publishing grants things. So these are relationships that you'll develop that you'll use the rest of your life, and skills you use the rest of your life. So you want people who can you can be in for the long game. And that they have knowledge that, again, influence is an interesting thing, but if they're respected in the institution, that tells you something. And good communication skills. Okay. So a good relationship works well for both people and should constantly be reassessed over time. The person who's a great mentor for you now when you're getting started. It might not be the person who's a great mentor for you when you're moving up to the next step because your interests may be different, right? But that's okay. So either the relationship evolves or it gets terminated and a new one takes its place, but that's okay. You have to be okay with that. It'll never be perfect, it won't be predictable, and it may or may not be time limited. So again, this is not the person who's going to care about you the rest of your life necessarily. You might develop that kind of relationship, you might not. Okay. So, and then again, it's really important to say what's critical for a good fit. There have been studies that have looked at fit for gender and ethnicity, and it seems that in the correlation literature that has not been a big factor, at least in the perceived value of mentoring. There hasn't been enough quantitative research, I learned yesterday from an outside speaker about this, but qualitatively there hasn't been a feel that a gender or ethnicity match is absolutely critical, okay? I would say though that that's a very personal decision. And again, getting back to this idea that it would be helpful maybe to have a couple of mentors. It might be that your career mentor, your academic career mentor, has nothing to do with gender and ethnicity, but when you want to talk about something else, someone who has had more similar experiences might be a good person. So for instance, when I was a resident, when I was a junior faculty, I had a faculty mentor who was a fantastic guy, but was from a very traditional background, whose wife never worked, who was peripherally involved in raising his children, which was perfectly appropriate for the time, okay? So when I got pregnant, wasn't the guy I was going to talk to, okay? But I had another mentor who was a woman faculty member who had 3 kids, and she and her husband were both physicians, and she was a great person to talk to. So I talked to him about doing science, and I talked to her about what do you do, with these situations. So it's very helpful to be as specific about these things and honest about these things with yourself as you can. Okay. So it is that this is just, again, a correlation, an observation that in one study, men were more likely than women to have a positive relationship. Where does that come from? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't a good match. Maybe some people are more assertive. We're going to talk in the second half of the talk about what you should get out of the relationship. And if you think it's a one-way street where the mentor is supposed to give you everything, you're not going to get the optimal effect of the mentoring relationship. It is this trustworthy thing. It's really important that my husband calls it a bullshit meter. You have to develop that with people. This is a very large place. There are 2,500 faculty, I think, in the School of Medicine. Okay, just given statistically, the bell-shaped curve of human nature, there will be people who might be more self-interested and less self-interested. Some of the more self-interested people might be incredibly successful and really good at what they do, and they might be really good people to talk to and cultivate for very specific reasons. You might not talk to them about other things, okay? So it is not, it happens that people feel that they got used in the relationship, okay? And we're not talking about sexual harassment or anything like that. We're just saying, used my work, included them on my papers, things like that, okay? Which also talks to looking for a mentor. So I just love this. This was actually for grad students. This was an article on how to choose a PhD mentor when you're a grad student. And I can always send the cartoon out if you want. But for instance, the psycho is a useful mentor, keeps you on your toes, but is a little scary, okay? The rising star, exciting ride, not much room for you, okay? Because they have to get their name on every paper and they have to be the one talking about everything, okay? So this is just to say that there's a lot of different personalities out there. Okay, so this is really important this sounds very straightforward. It is remarkable to me after 20-something years of being here and over a dozen years of working with junior faculty, how unintuitive it is for people to list these things out in a very concrete manner. And I would strongly suggest that you think about these things in a very concrete manner. Okay. What does your chair, division chief / department expect of you? First of all, who knows what faculty series they're in? Okay. Who doesn't know, who's not quite sure what faculty series they're in? Okay. That's really important, okay? Because your faculty series defines your job expectations. So we can talk about that afterwards if you want. Okay. So there are different faculty series in the University of California, and the job descriptions are different, and the expectations are different, and it's all good. But if you're trying to do job X, but your description is Y, you're going to wonder where the disconnect is. So how are you going to be judged? If your health science is clinical, You're primarily going to be judged on education and clinical work. You're supposed to be a master clinician educator, and you should do something creative. So your academic productivity is important, but it's third or fourth on the list. Okay? If you are in line or in residence, your academic productivity is the number one thing, and you better be a competent teacher and you better be clinically competent, but that's not what you're going to be judged on. Okay? Everybody will be asked about, when you go up for a merit review or when you go up for a promotion, you'll be asked about your university service. But every now and then there's a junior faculty who gets so excited about all the opportunities to participate in the university community that they get a little too invested in that, and the other things suffer, and this is number 4 on the list. So if you're getting an A in number 4, but you're getting a C in the top 3, it's not going to go well for you at promotion time. So it's really important to keep these things in perspective, and I actually suggest to the people that I work with that they get down to the either hours or percent time, depending on how you think about your week. Do it for several weeks, for months, and then look, if you are in residence or in line, and you're doing 60 to 70% clinical work, and I'm not talking about teaching. I always say if it took you, I'm going to use pathology, if it took you 4 hours to sign out, but you could have done the slides in 2 hours by yourself, you just spent 2 hours teaching. If you're sitting with the residents signing out and it took you 4 hours, okay, it took you 2 hours to teach them. If going back to that, if you're in line or in residence and you're spending 60 to 70% time purely clinical work, and then you're doing your teaching and you haven't started, you don't have a grant going, you don't have your experiments going, you don't have your papers coming out, it's going to be bad, okay? Conversely, if you're trying to get all these research projects going, but your health science is clinical, and you aren't being productive clinically, that's not going to look good when you get reviewed. So it's really important that you keep a very concrete sense of how you're spending your time. And you know, a day by day might be too granular, but week or month by month is really, really important. And you would be surprised at where the time goes. When you actually have to sit down and account for your time, it's very surprising where the time goes. The other thing is to be very honest with oneself. We all have strengths, we all have weaknesses. Getting patted on the head for your strengths, you've all done extensively or you wouldn't be here. So this would be the time to go, you know what, I made it, I feel pretty good. Where can I improve? What are my challenges? Okay, so again, this went the wrong way, okay. Okay, you need more than one mentor. No one mentor can be everything, and they have different areas of strength, and sometimes you might have to end a relationship or you might have to start a new one. Okay. So let's talk about the professional research mentor. This might not be your official mentor in your department. If you're in psychiatry and you get assigned a really good person in psychiatry, but their area of research is different than yours, they're going to help you get promoted in psychiatry. They know how the department works, they know what's expected, but they wouldn't be necessarily the person you'd go to for research advice. That person might be in neurology, they might be in psychology, they might be in another department, okay? But they are the person you talk to about developing your very specific things about your career. What meetings should I go to? What do you think of this journal? What do you think about, you know, framing the grant this way? They should know your field. It can be in a formal or informal relationship. And this person can be in your line of service or not. And when I say in your line of service, I'm talking about someone to whom you are responsible in your department. Many departments automatically assign someone in the line of service as a mentor. The section chief, the division head, someone. That can be very problematic. The official, we're going to talk about that in the next slide, but the official mentor in your department should never be in your line of service. Okay, so the academic mentor. Their goal is to help you understand what it takes to get promoted at UCLA. That is really what we're talking about here. I mean, I want you to be happy, and I want you to be successful, and I want you to be productive, but what I really want is for you to make associate professor. Okay? And there are very concrete things you need to do to make associate professor, and this person should understand what those are, especially in your department, because departments differ. Okay? They should help you juggle the different aspects of your career. They should help you look at how you're spending your time and go, really? You've been teaching 4 courses and you aren't doing enough clinical work? That's not going to look good. They should be honest with you about that. Navigate your choices, manage your putting together your dossier for promotion. They should know the UCLA academic system. If they don't, they don't have a lot to offer you. Okay? If they are your academic mentor, it's probably your formal mentor assigned by your department. If it is your official mentor, they can't be in your line of service. I'm the division chief of lab medicine, and my goal is to make sure that clinical labs run properly. So I will always hold that over the individual development. If, when it comes down to the wire, something getting done in the lab will be more important in that moment than the individual development of a faculty member. So I'm not going to mentor anyone in my direct line. On the other hand, I can mentor somebody over a neuropath and say to them, oh, no, 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 tell your service chief that's way too much service. You can't do that, okay? So that you need to have someone who has no shirt, what is it called? No skin in the game, okay? No dog in the fight. This is really important. Again, I have been contacted by people who said, oh, my assigned mentor wants their name on all the papers. This person shouldn't necessarily be in your area of research. They should be able to be your kind of, third-party observer to your promotion, to your professional success, okay? So this is really, really important. Okay. So the life-work balance mentor. Okay. So this is a person, it might be one of these other people. Sometimes you have someone you can talk about anything. It's lovely, okay? But sometimes you want to talk to somebody else about life stuff, because we all have life stuff. It's someone that you can be honest with. Someone who's honest with you about their choices. If they sit there and go, oh, don't worry about that, it was easy. That's like a red flag, because if it was easy, you would have figured it out, okay? So we all have stuff, we all have relationships, we all have family issues, we all have stuff. And someone who can be honest about their challenges, I think is an easier person to talk to than someone who says, oh, it was easy. No problems, okay? But again, if they're really miserable, that might not be a good mentor, because maybe they can't give you a lot of good strategies to get through these things. They should be a good listener. I think someone who's been helpful, someone who's helpful can present pros and cons, not tell you what to do. They really shouldn't, a good mentor doesn't tell you what to do, they help you figure out what you want to do. Okay, that's really, again, so if you get into this situation where you feel like all you're getting is instruction, you might reconsider. Okay. So that's the first half. That's about mentoring. And now we're going to talk about the mentee. And Lynn Gordon who's one of the associate deans for who's the associate dean for diversity, and one of the people that started this seminar series, suggested that we add mentoring up to this talk, because I think there's a sense of passivity in education. You received information in college, and you received information in medical school or graduate school, and you received information in your fellowship training or your residency training. And I think there have been some people that feel that the mentoring relationship should be the similar receiving of information. And this is the point where that changes, where you have to be extremely proactive. So the mentee, the protege is another word for it, takes initiative, and they set up the meetings. And they hold the mentor accountable for, oh, okay, we're going to meet tomorrow. I'm sending a reminder. I just wanted to double check you're still good for us to meet tomorrow. And I sent you the grant 3 weeks ago, and we're meeting next week. Do you think you'll have time to discuss it? Obviously cordial, obviously respectful. But if this is a successful person, they probably have a few other things on their plate, and it would be your responsibility to remind them. Okay? If you're asking them to assist in career decisions, again, you have to bring that to them. They can't read your mind. You have to lay it out. I'm thinking about this versus this, okay? Which means you have to be prepared before the meeting and going into a mentoring meeting. If you just walk in, empty vessel, here I am, fill me up, okay? That's not going to be productive, all right? Walk into the meeting with questions. Walk into the meeting with, I've been thinking about this, here are the pros, here are the cons. Do you see anything I'm missing, okay? Be prepared, be honest about your degree of passion, commitment, and focus. So if they say, oh, but it's great, you're going to be teaching this course, and you're going, oh, I really don't want to teach this course, okay? Be honest with them, because they're only going to work on the information you give them. And if you don't give them honest information, you're not going to get much of value out of the relationship, okay? Which means you have to be honest with yourself and clarify what your professional goals are. So I was mentioning that there was a meeting for vice chairs and other people involved in mentoring yesterday up at campus, and we were talking about professional goals. And I think a lot of junior people, not a lot, some junior people might feel that what the mentor wants to hear is what they should say. Oh, I want to have a career just like yours. I want to be like you. You're a basic scientist, I want to do basic science, okay? You're a really established surgeon, I want to I want to do that. You can say that, you're not going to get much useful out of the relationship if that's not true. If you can walk in and say, wow, successful surgeon scientist, okay? I would like to be in the health sciences clinical track because I really like teaching and clinical work, and you have to be honest about what you want, because the goal of this is the university will be successful if you're successful and you're productive and you're happy. So if you're doing this because you think someone else wants you to do this, you're trying to fill a job description that someone else defined, that's going to be much harder and you're not going to get much value out of the mentoring. And then finally, as I said, you have to be willing to hear criticism. Okay. So the mentor is not going to set your goals. The mentor is going to sit with you and talk with you and say, I don't know, what do you think your goals should be? So then it's really important to set concrete goals because time flies. Time flies. It's amazing. You got here, and 3 years and 8 months after you got here, your academic affairs officer is going to be asking you for your 4th year review paperwork, where you are going to be undergoing your 4th year review, okay? And 6 years and a few months after you got here, you're going to be going up for promotion. At which point, a group of people who don't know you, will never meet you, is going to look at a pile of paper that you send them where you objectively list your accomplishments and go, yeah, looks pretty good, she should be associate professor, or no. So if you can't get concrete, you won't be able to achieve the things that you'll have to list on that dossier to make them want to promote you. It's very straightforward. Another common misconception, I've had junior faculty walk in my office and I go, well, look at your self-statement. Oh, people know what I do. Not really. There's 2,500 faculty. Really, they don't. By the time you get to ClinCap or CAP, they really don't know who the heck you are, okay? So you have to be really concrete about your goals and be willing to say, that seemed like a good idea at the time, but that's just not going to happen. I was going to cure cancer by the time I made associate professor, but I'm running out of time. I think I should come up with some different goals, okay? So you have to re-examine them. You have to listen actively to the mentor. If you're just, if you go somewhere else, if you're thinking about what you're going to make for dinner when you're sitting or in the mentoring meeting, okay, you might as well not be there. You have to really engage during the meeting. You have to present your needs in an articulate way and ask for guidance when you need it. Which is why having more than one mentor can be helpful. Now, I would say a good mentor would never present one option, would never say, this is what you should do. You might get that person, though, okay? So to get a good menu of choices, I think it can help to talk to a lot of different people. And again, be cautious of people who only reflect on their own experience, or somehow, oh, why don't you come work with me? Let's work on my project. That's, it rarely happens, but it happens. Okay. So, okay, I don't have data to support the 90%, we made the number up, but I'm just saying that 90% of what you get out of the relationship is what you put into it. Okay. So you have to be proactive. This is right. Think about yourself. You have to be proactive. Do you have good self-control? Do you have high self-monitoring skills? You probably do, or you wouldn't be here, okay? And are you emotionally mature? But these are really important things so that when someone goes, oh, you get this horrible score back on your grant, what you really want the mentor to do is shred it. You actually want them to shred it before it goes in, okay? And you have to be able to take it because it's not about you, it's about the work. And you have to be able to distance yourself, or the paper, or the the course you offered that nobody showed up for. You got horrible teaching evaluations, okay? I got these horrible teaching evaluations. I tried so hard, okay? Well, you have to be able to hear constructive criticism. Okay, so this mentoring up comes from a corporate concept called managing up, which they're saying that the employee, in this case the mentee, the junior faculty, has a responsibility for their part in the collaborative alliance. And this is that article I mentioned at the beginning. So if people want this, they can either email Cindy or me, and it's a very brief article. It's like 3 pages, and a lot of what I'm saying today is taken from that article. But it's called, again, Making the Most of Mentors, a Guide for Mentees. Okay. So again, you let the mentor know what you want. You communicate in a way the mentor prefers. And I have given this talk maybe 3 other times, and someone always goes, well, what about me? I was like, well, no. You want to get the most out of this person. This is probably a successful, probably busy person, and they might be older than you. I text very poorly, okay? Texting would not be a good way to communicate with me. I can't walk and text. My daughter goes, Mommy, don't drive and text. I was like, I can't walk and text, okay? So I might, I know some people work interesting hours and they say, oh, I'm going to just email the mentor everything. Well, to be honest, and again, let me use myself as an example, I find value in someone making an appointment to come see me, sitting down and being articulate and speaking with me and engaging with me. Okay? So if the mentor wants you to come in and talk to them, then you should come in and talk to them. And if the timing works best for them, morning, evening, whatever, that would be the time I would suggest you choose. Okay? You are asking this person to give you something valuable, which means it would be helpful if you could take it in the best manner possible, which would be their manner of communication. Okay. And again, you plan the meeting agenda. You ask questions, you listen, you complete assignments, and you ask for feedback. Okay, so again, these are just important things to think about. We're going to have time at the end if people have questions. You want to clarify your values. It's really important to identify your own work style and habits, because most of us assume that other people think the way we do, but they often don't, okay? And statements that, well, everybody likes to do it that way. Well, actually, they don't. So you have to be very clear about what your particular style is, your particular knowledge and skill gaps, and then know where you want guidance. If you got your grant and that's going great, that's fantastic. But if you're having infighting in your lab and the postdoc's about to kill the student, or you've gone through 3 techs in a year, okay, that might be where you need guidance. How do I keep people? How do I set up lab meetings that don't turn into free-for-alls, you know? I had a junior faculty who thought that it was a democracy, had a growing lab, had a lot of funding, was turning out good papers, and was getting buffeted because the people in the lab were telling him, no, I don't want to do this project, I want to do this project. They were fighting among themselves for project. And he thought that he was being a good guy by making it very democratic. I was like, actually, no, leadership would be a good thing here, and it's not a democracy, and you decide who does what. Of course, you have a conversation. But you know, it was interesting because his grants were doing fine, and the research was fantastic, but what his challenge was management skills. And so you have to, you have to be honest with yourself. What is the thing that keeps you up at night going, I can't stand that, I wish that we could fix that, okay? I always say it's good to think about where does your brain default when you're waiting in traffic, because that tells you a lot, okay? So again, the papers might be getting published, but why aren't the grants getting funded? Some people are really good at getting data and telling a story once they have the data, but they're not as good as presenting a question in a way that makes people want to give them money. Okay? Or some people are pretty good at writing grants, and then they can't complete. The papers aren't coming out, and it's coming up for promotion, and there's 6 papers in preparation because they can't finish. Okay? Believe me, finishing is a remarkable skill, and it's not a common skill. Someone who's a finisher is that's a really valuable skill. Okay? Which is why it can be very helpful to have these concrete goals: 3 months, 1 year, 5 years, as opposed to when I get to it. Okay? So clinical service you have to do when you're on, which means you can push that paper off and push that paper off and push that paper off, and all of a sudden you're going up for promotion, you don't have any publications, which your mentor should be bugging you about, but okay. All right. How do you find the mentor? So maybe your department assigns you someone. Again, this is where you have to be proactive, and this is awkward for us because if we wanted to be in a social field, where you had to go out and like schmooze people, maybe we would have gone into business or something, okay? Because even though it's a very personal field, medicine, it's a very structured interaction. We walk into interactions that are predefined. I'm the physician, you're the patient. I'm the teacher, you're the student, okay? So you have to meet people you have to introduce yourself to people you've never met. So get recommendations from colleagues, get recommendations from older people in your department, okay? Be persistent. Don't take it personally. If someone says, I'm sorry, I'm really booked right now, I can't work with you, it might not be you. They might actually be really busy, okay? It's not personal. They might not want to be a mentor. That's fine. You don't want someone who doesn't want to do this. What's the point? Okay? So you want someone who's available and accessible, someone who provides opportunities and encourages you to take risks. I can't stress this enough. You are here to push forward the boundary of knowledge in whatever you do, and if you just keep doing the same safe thing, by definition, you aren't fulfilling your job description. So you should be doing something creative in some arena, whether it's teaching, clinical work, research. Okay? Help you develop your own agenda, and hopefully someone who has prior mentoring experience. So write down your goals, write down your attributes. Think about this. Be really honest with yourself. If you would be more comfortable in a mentoring relationship with someone of the same gender, then be honest about it. Okay? If life experiences are important for that relationship, be honest about it. Don't go, oh, it's okay. Other people say they enjoy having mentors who have different backgrounds and they learn something. It's all good. You just have to be honest with yourself. So what's your personal style and the gaps you want addressed? When you start the mentoring search, don't talk yourself out of it. Oh, I don't want to talk to them. They're so busy. Well, you know, if they're busy, they'll tell you, and you have to accept that, okay? If you don't know what career direction to take, you actually need a mentor. So if you really are unsure, then maybe go to Lynn Gordon's office, go talk with Dean Hyatt. If you talk with your section chief, your division chief, your department chair, your vice chair, get some direction, start talking. The process of talking will help crystallize some of these things, okay? Again, you would think one doesn't need to say this. I had an email yesterday from someone who was asking me to mentor them that started with, here's my CV, our research interests are very similar, I'd like to meet with you. So I would say that shows perhaps a lack of social skills, okay? So when you, again, this social opening, I know this sounds trivial, but go in, hi, how are you? Ask about, you know, that seems trivial, but you want to develop a relationship of mutual respect with this person, so it's important to show a little mutual respect, okay? Go in with a plan, articulate your needs, be very specific. These are possible topics. Obviously, grants, establishing collaborations is a tough one because junior faculty can have what my husband calls death by 1,000 cuts. They start collaborating with everybody because it sounds good and you think those people are, it's going to be important for you, they're going to help your success and your name's going to be on their papers and that's going to be great, you're going to look good. And you end up being 3% time on 20 projects. You're not significantly contributing to anything, and when someone says describe what you do, you're so all over the place, you have to become what I call the guy of the thing, and the guy is gender neutral, and I don't care what the thing is. But you should be the guy of the thing. Okay? You should be the really good person in interventional neuroradiology. Okay? And so seeking collaborators and conversely politely turning people down is really helpful because if you're the only person who's doing pediatric cardiovascular MRI, everyone's going to want you on their grant and you're going to die a death of 1,000 cuts. So you have to also practice with the mentor going, oh, that sounds so interesting. Thank you. I wish I had the time. I'm overbooked now. Maybe in the future we could do that together. Okay? And then also very important there, prioritizing them. Who would you say yes to, not based on chronology? You don't say yes to the first person and no to the second person. You learn to say to people, okay, thank you so much for that. Let me get back to you. Give me 3 weeks and I'll get back to you. Okay? And then you kind of look at your options and decide what's the most important. Again, this is about your success. Some of this sounds like I'm encouraging you to be very selfish. I am. If you aren't successful, we lose. Your department loses. They spent time and money looking for you. They spent resources to bring you here. They spent money keeping you here, and if you don't get promoted, everybody loses. The entire institution loses. So your success is not just good for you, it's good for everybody, which is why learning some of these skills, and they're just learned skills, nobody's bored knowing how to do this, so that you can pare away the distractions and get focused and not make everybody happy is really critical. Okay. So, you know, so collaborations is something you might not have thought of networking opportunities. I'm too busy to go to the meeting. Really? Really? You got invited to the meeting to give a talk? You're going to have to go. You should go. You should go to the meeting and give the talk because you got invited to go to the meeting. Or you didn't get invited to the meeting, but you want to go. How do you meet somebody at lunch and start having a conversation? This is, again, not something you learned in grad school or med school. You didn't learn about that kind of networking stuff probably unless you also did an MBA. Really helpful. If you have a mentor, they should be looking at your promotion materials a good couple months before they go in. Your self-statement, the way you've put together your dossier, the way that you've put together your CV and bibliography. Same thing with if they're going to read papers and grants for you, give them several months, okay? And then take the feedback. But to give them to them the night before is rude, okay? And to not use them, to put it in and not, oh, I didn't want to bother them. That's what they're there for. You really have to use them to review your promotion materials, okay? Cultivate the relationship, be responsible, take the initiative in setting up the meetings. I think it doesn't hurt to occasionally go, I am so happy that I can come here and talk with you and know that the door is closed and know I feel very comfortable. And if you can't say that, then don't say that, okay? and find someone else to talk to, okay? I also think it's quite professional to just say, thanks so much for meeting with me. My top 3 things I took away were this, this, and this. I look forward to meeting with you in 6 months as we agreed. I'll be in touch with you a month before to set up a meeting. It's professional, it's respectful, okay? And again, some of this is redundant, but stick to the goal schedule, help the mentor. If the mentor's not helpful, sometimes you can say, that's not helping. Or I hear what you're saying, but I'm really having trouble with this concept. Do you think there's someone else I could talk with about that? And a good mentor will go, yeah, absolutely. Let's go. You should go talk to so-and-so, okay? And one of the person, we went to this seminar yesterday on mentoring, and a mentor should be honest with themselves and say, I'm really good at the kick in the pants, get your butt out there and write the grant, but not so good at what the person called the touchy-feely stuff. You should go talk to my colleague down the hall about the touchy-feely stuff, okay? Or conversely, great with the touchy-feely stuff, but not this real kick in the pants some people need, okay? And you want someone who will do that for you, okay? The last thing sounds, again, trivial, but I would really like you to think about this. What do you personally define as your success? And I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care what your professor in med school said. I don't care what your mother said. I don't care what, anybody said. If you define success in a certain way and it's congruent with getting promoted in the University of California, which is important, and you achieve that, then good for you. But it's really important to be concrete about that because it gets very easy to be swayed by other people's definition of success. I should be doing this. Oh, my mentor said my department said I should be doing this. I should be doing this. Why? Well, because that person did that and they're famous and well-respected and successful. Yeah, but you're really bad at that. I should be a professional women's basketball player. Not going to happen, okay? Not my skill set, all right? So you just have to be honest about what makes you happy and what does it take to be successful in the system, and given those constraints, can you do that and then still, and if you really love teaching and your health science is clinical, then make your innovations in teaching. Whatever it is that you like, if you really love being in the OR, then make your innovations in that and make your teaching center around that. And if you, for instance, trained doing, if you were MD, PhD and it was all about bench work, but what you're really happy now is clinical research, then go do clinical research and be really good at it and enjoy it. But it sounds trivial, but it's a very hard exercise to be really honest with yourself about what you define as your own personal success. And some relationships end. So you should talk about when it should end. Now, in our department, the official relationship ends the moment the person gets promoted to associate. Some people say, thank you very much, was good knowing you, I appreciate it, and they don't continue the relationship, which is fine, and some people do continue the relationship, okay? And then, you might say, going forward, I realize I'm moving away from this area and into this area. Can you think of people I might talk with? So be realistic, list what's important to you, and be flexible. So this little table is actually out of that article. And this, again, it sounds a little goofy, but it's helpful to say, what are my 3-month goals, my 1-year goals, my 5-year goals? For the 1-year goals, which of these need help from someone? And for the 5-year goals, which of these are you going to need help from someone? And this is in this article, there's this whole list, a checklist for mentees to manage up. And I know you can't read it because it's a really long list, so I have the article. But that's what I'm saying. These are all the things you should be thinking about. So, and the last thing I want to say, communication is critical. You have to actively participate. Email is for information transfer. Tone doesn't come across in email. Concern doesn't come across in email. Facial expressions, emoticons don't count. Facial expression doesn't come across in email. I suggest that email is for setting up a time to meet. Okay, you really want to have FaceTime with the mentor. I know we're all busy, okay, but if it's your career, okay. Frequent communication, engage in a dialogue. Don't be passive and don't dominate the conversation. Have a dialogue and stay open-minded. Many of the most successful people are doing things that they never thought that they would be doing ever because either it didn't exist at the time they were training or an opportunity came up. And the same thing will happen to you. There was this great paper in Science last week where some psychologists did this huge, 19,000 subjects, I think, and they said, how much have you changed in the last 10 years and how much will you change in the next 10 years? And to simplify, people thought they'd changed a lot in the last 10 years, but they weren't going to change much in the next 10 years. So they're saying that there's this human resistance to seeing themselves in something they can't consciously envision right now. But we all know that you're probably going to change more in the next 10 years than you changed in the last 10 years, and you have to be open-minded to that. So that's it for the formal part of it. I'm happy to send you the paper. I'm happy to stick around and take some general questions, and we're all busy, and if you want to go, that's great, and you think about something, you want to email me, or you want to stick around and do individual questions, I'm happy to do that. Okay? Thank you.